Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Sam's Report. To the many people who are watching for the first time, I do this generally every Friday, and I've been doing it since last July. The show's been growing, and we're going to have a lot of fun today. This is going to be a little bit shorter than a typical show for a couple reasons. One, we're going to focus a lot on Xbox. Two, it is Wednesday. I typically do this on Fridays. You can also find all the past shows on SoundCloud and on YouTube on this channel, and all that other good stuff, or go to Throt.com and check out the post, and you'll find all the links you'll ever need. And we're gonna have a lot of fun today. I've been sitting on some of this for a little bit, and I think it's safe to finally talk about it. I feel pretty good about this stuff. I know it's coming, and let's go ahead and get started. But before we do that, just a quick reminder for everybody who usually harasses me on Friday when I don't do a show. I try to do them every single Friday, but I will not be doing a show this Friday. I'm going on vacation. I'm going to be face down in the sand with my, bottle of scotch. And actually, I'm going down to the Gulf Shores with my family, taking my daughter and wife, and going to go to have a good time. And so I will not be as responsive to tweets and emails as I typically am. And I don't know if I'll be able to do a show next Friday or not either, but we're going to do this show today, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So let's kick things off. So there was some big news last night. We are going to jump through a couple of things here before Xbox here, just because like any good TV show host or podcast host, whatever the hell you want to call me, you save it till the end. Although the end is not very far away. Trust me. I know this is what you want because I want to see what you guys have to say, and I really want to get some feedback on this stuff. This sounds really, 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 really good. So anyways, last night, big news announced. Microsoft tipped us off to this late last night, and it was just too damn late to write up get on the phone call legitimately at 1 a.m. But, so here we go. Microsoft is pretty much putting the final nail in the Windows Phone coffin, at least for the consumer side. They are reeling things back even further. What do we got? 1,850 layoffs, another damn near $1 billion write-down for the Windows Phone industry, or Windows Phone business unit. It speaks for itself. We've all known this has been coming. We've been saying for a while this is the last Lumia that came out with the 950. If you bought one of these things, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I feel bad for people who are deeply invested in the Windows Phone community. It's not going away. Microsoft has vehemently communicated that they're going to continue to develop Windows 10 Mobile. That is not going away. Please don't think that. But they are scaling things back even further. So it's not rosy roads ahead for the Windows Phone consumer side. I don't know what to tell you, but more people being laid off, a huge write-down. They said they're going to focus on businesses, which makes sense. To be honest, if we would have go back and done this launch again, Windows Phone 7 should have been focused on the business. They should have gone business first, then consumer, not this consumer, then back to business scenario. Yeah. So Windows 10 Mobile, I don't know what else to say. It's already been said. But one thing Terry Myerson did say is we are scaling back, but we are not out. So there you go. That's just kind of hitting the high notes because we're going to run through this. I only imagine this show is going to take 15, 20 minutes, if that. But here we go. But really, the bigger question with Microsoft announcing this is what does it mean for universal Windows platform apps, right? The big pitch was write once, run everywhere. Well, if they're not pitching these things to consumers anymore, why are you going to build out a universal app that runs on this? What's the point? The market share is so small, so why would you do that anyways? Of course, the Xbox behind me, you could argue that it's going to be able to run on that. Who's going to be running major apps unless we talk about that later? But who's going to be running apps on their Xbox? It's not conducive to that. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the future of the Universal Windows Platform app is. I hope that they figure this out because I like where they were headed with this, but it's business at the end of the day, folks. If they're not making money, then they can't. So there you go. Universal Windows Platform apps, whatever. Next thing before we get to the Xbox news that everybody here is watching, actually quite a few of you, I think this is a record for the amount of people who have actually showed up for the live show. Usually we hit about 150 and now we're at about 300 or so. So good stuff. Thanks for listening. The last thing is Microsoft's US-centric approach to apps is leaving market share on the table. I wrote about this earlier this week. Microsoft, I don't know what they're doing. Android specifically, Android apps. we wrote about, or I should say I wrote about, how if you have an Android device, latest Windows Insider build, notifications now sync. Great. If you live anywhere outside the US, you're screwed. Microsoft, I don't get this. The Android app is not available outside the US for, the Cortana app is not available outside the US for Android devices. So, what are they doing? Microsoft, get your head out of your ass here. Like, you already have Cortana available in other countries. Why not make the app available in other countries so people can dive in? And it's the same thing with their Wordflow keyboard. Bing is garbage outside the US. And Microsoft is just like their, fingers in their ears to this scenario. So, I don't know. I don't know what Microsoft is doing here. But they're legitimately leaving market share on the table, which is really crazy. And oh my God, the people are piling in here. We're almost... Clearly, this podcast got posted somewhere because it's getting a record amount of traffic. But yeah, all right. Should we do the Xbox news? I think that's the only reason people are here, which is totally legit. I love Xbox. Xbox is my favorite thing. For those of you who weren't here, I scooped the Elite controller. This is not my first time around dropping scoops in the Xbox world, so I do have a little bit of credibility. If you go back about a year and a half, about a year and 14 months ago, we'll say, and listen to a Windows Weekly episode, I scooped that Microsoft was going to build this. So there's my credibility. It's in record. So yeah, Xbox group, people showing up here. I love you guys. Follow me on Twitter. It's at BDSams. I love this stuff. Thank you for listening. Xbox time. Let's do this. All right. So a couple weeks ago, I wrote up that, hey, Microsoft's going to have some new hardware at E3. And since then, I've heard from a lot of people, and they all said, yeah, you're right. There is going to be new hardware. And after digging around and getting some good information, I think it's finally time to start talking about it. So there's going to be more than just one hardware. There's going to be hardwares, plural. And before the next things go out, anybody who's going to write this up, I'm not writing this up in a formal way, just doing this on the podcast. Please credit the podcast because I'm trying to grow the community here because I have a lot of fun with you guys. So just credit the podcast and give a link to the SoundCloud or whatever page you want. But yeah. So Xbox Mini is real. It's a real thing. It is legit, and I'm not quite sure what form it's going to take, but here we go. So Microsoft, I believe, is going to announce at least 2 streaming devices at E3. There's going to be a very small device, size of roughly the Chromecast. Think Amazon Fire. So that size device. And then there's also going to be something that's a little bit larger. And think like a small lunchbox type thing. Maybe a little bit smaller than a large lunchbox. So it's not necessarily going to be, I don't think it's going to be an Xbox One crammed into a teeny tiny box, but I think it's going to be another smaller streaming device, but I believe it's going to have more advanced functionality. Microsoft has a big hole in the living room. They used to use the Xbox 360 as a cheap media device in the living room. Well, they killed the Xbox 360. And the Xbox One, it's huge. Don't get me wrong. I love the Xbox One. I play every day. Overwatch fans, hit me up. BD Sams on Xbox Live. Same thing. I love Overwatch. I play Smite. I played Halo. I'm waiting for Titanfall. But it is huge. It's not a thing you just kind of put into your media cabinet. You got to make space for it. So I think they're going to have 2 devices. It's going to be one super streamer. I think like Roku style device. And then another device that's going to have more features. And what I think the differentiation between these 2 devices are, I would imagine the smaller devices can be for streaming only. Think Miracast dongle, maybe a little bit more deeper integration with Xbox. But the other device, I honestly think that this is maybe where they're going to start using the app leverage. I could see this device sitting in the cabinet and being able to play Windows Store games. Now, obviously not like Tomb Raider, but like your lightweight games. Think of like a Media Device Plus, almost more of along the lines of an Apple TV. I've been hearing for a while that Microsoft is wanting to take on the Apple TV, and I think this is it. And so I've heard pricing all over the place for this stuff. So I've heard anywhere that the Chromecast style device is going to cost around $100, maybe a little bit less, and the larger device could be around the $175 to $150. So there's that. And if you think those are all the scoops, we're not done yet, folks. There's a lot more. So Microsoft is also dabbling with 4K. Now, we've heard a lot about the PS4K, and people are like, oh my god, Microsoft's gotta have something that competes with this. Now, this is where the details get a little bit fuzzy for me. I don't believe it's going to be 4K gaming. 4K gaming takes super high-end hardware. Right now, this machine that I'm on is a 980 Ti. I know, the new one's coming out. I'll probably buy that card. And it's a 4K, two 4K monitors, and it's at the edge, right? It can do it. I can get about 55 frames per second, but this is edge case hardware, and it's higher end. And I don't see Microsoft to do 4K gaming. They have to come up, in my opinion, with a completely new device, new architecture, and just really revamp the system. I do not see them doing that, but I believe it will play the next generation, like Xbox 1.5 or whatever you want to call it. Don't quote me on, or Xbox 1.5-ish, whatever they're going to call it. Will actually allow 4K video playback, is what I'm hearing. Now, I can't confirm that that's going to happen, but that's what I've heard. So there should be to make that happen, there's going to have to be some sort of internal hardware upgrade. I would imagine maybe faster video memory. I don't quite know, but I don't see them changing too much because remember, they got to have compatibility with all their games. So we're not done yet, folks. We're still going strong here. A couple other things. Xbox, look for this kind of theme coming out of Microsoft here. Is Xbox is going to be pitched more as a platform. Microsoft is wanting to get, I say this kind of lightly, Microsoft is wanting to get back into the PC gaming, but they don't want to lose the Xbox platform. So look for these things to start overcrossing. We're already starting to see this somewhat. We're seeing the crossplay between, Rocket League, between the Steam and Xbox. And expect to see more of that. And we're going to see more stuff coming to the PC. So this one's a little bit less detailed, but I'm hearing that Microsoft is looking to bring the Xbox interface to the PC. Anybody who's been screaming, give us Media Center, Microsoft is playing around with bringing the Xbox interface to the PC. Now, I don't know where this is along the lines of development. I've heard that it's more Redstone 2 related, but yeah. So that would actually be really cool because then you could build a cheap device, have an Xbox interface. Remember, this thing is just running Windows 10. So this is not some sort of like marvel of technology to bring, and they don't have to emulate anything. It's already running frickin' Windows 10 in that thing. The smartest thing Microsoft has ever done. So imagine the Xbox interface on your PC. Voila, what do we have again? Media Center. But they only have to support one platform. The problem I heard with Media Center is that they had Media Center, then they had Xbox, then they had Windows, and they were supporting all these platforms. But now they've got one core, they've got one OS. Boom, they build it, it runs everywhere. And I think this is going to be massive, especially for the next generation Xbox. Because what if Xbox is simply software? Think further down the road. What if Xbox just becomes software? And it's, if you want an Xbox One, as long as your system meets the perspective or the specs, your PC could be an Xbox. Of course, don't get me wrong, I can still see Microsoft building a dedicated box with the controller and all that stuff, and they're not going to go away. But Xbox, I really fundamentally believe, is just going to turn into software at one point. So think about that. That is crazy. And to the people who are saying, well, it's going to give them unfair advantage, you got to get over that stuff. Microsoft is looking at extensibility. That's the magic word inside of Microsoft. If you want to hit your bonus inside of Microsoft, you build an extensible system. Cortana is perfect. We are now seeing this with an Xbox. Don't get me wrong. I think we're going to see this with Universal App Platform too. The Universal Windows Platform, I think, is going to be more extensible potentially to iOS and Android with their Xamarin acquisition. And so if you think we're done with the Xbox scoops, we are not yet. I told you, I got a big dump of data from this stuff. Next year, I think they're going to do something big. I think they're going to do something big next year for the Xbox. There's I think it's a Eurogamer article out of Italy that talked about completely new architecture and a whole system revamp for this year's E3. The information I have heard does not say this year. They're on to something with their article, but I think their wires are crossed a little bit in the data. I believe it's next year. I'm also hearing that VR might be built in to this new whatever thing that's coming next year. Trust me, as Buxer says, Brad is getting really excited. I am. There's a few tidbits that I don't have solidified yet that I don't want to talk about, but what Microsoft is doing here is crazy. And look for some big Xbox stuff potentially next year as well in the hardware space. So I don't think we're done with the Xbox stuff. Yeah, as somebody as True Dead in Life wrote, said, yeah, I heard it too. 10 teraflop Xbox Spring 2017. So I can't comment on the 10 teraflops at all. That's a technical detail. That's pretty whatever. I don't have information on that, but I am hearing Xbox hardware Spring. I'm also hearing potentially VR, but that data comes from somebody outside Microsoft. So take that with a grain of salt. So, like I said, Xbox at E3 is going to be phenomenal. Now, people are going to say, what about the games, Brad? The games. Don't get me. Microsoft knows gaming is the bread and butter of Xbox. They are not backing away from this. It's going to be a game heavy, and they're going to craft their message very, very carefully. This is not going to be them coming up there chanting TV, TV, TV like they did when they announced the initial Xbox. That is not the intention. But they need to get more media. They need to build out the Xbox ecosystem. They need to attack the living room. The living room is becoming this viable ground for battle. And if you don't understand why, let me explain this. Cord cutters are looking for devices that go in their living room that allow them to get Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Video, all that stuff. Microsoft only has the Xbox One. It's too big, it's too clunky. Quite frankly, it's too expensive for the people who are cord cutting. And don't get me wrong, Xbox One makes a great cord cutting device because over-the-air DVR, it's coming. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to really make the Xbox shine. So, completely pumped for E3. I think this is. I'll be curious to see what Sony has up their sleeve, because one of the things that's always interesting about these things is that Sony and Microsoft somehow always do the same thing around the same time, and you always wonder if there's some like back channel collusion that says, "Hey, we'll do this at the same time." But E3. Look for new hardware, multiple pieces of hardware. I wrote up recently, if you didn't follow along, that I believe a new standard controller is coming. I don't quite know what all is different, but I think it's going to be updated. It's going to look relatively the same. I think it might come in a different color, but yeah. So, quick recap here, everybody. 2 devices, at least 2 pieces of hardware, I believe, coming at E3. Now, granted, all this could change, but everything I saw made it look like it was coming at E3. Streaming is going to be the big thing. Getting into the living room is going to be the big thing. PC playing is going to be the big push. PC gaming, not dead. Microsoft still committed, not giving up on the Xbox. They want to bring these 2 communities that they have. Remember, the PC gaming community is all Microsoft's. Yes, Steam is there, but who owns the OS? It's Microsoft. Microsoft owns PC gaming. And so they also own Xbox gaming. Why are these 2 separate systems or separate groups? They shouldn't be. Look for them to bring them together. This is going to be great. 4K video playback and everything else. So there you go, guys. If you like this show, definitely hit subscribe. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat room. I'm available basically for a little bit, and then I legitimately actually have to go pack so I can get down to the beach and not be here. A couple of other things. Big stuff happening, guys. So I'm actually building a studio right here in this room. Look for setup and everything to change. Shows might get a little crazy for a week or 2, but you can't see it now, but this is actually just kind of like a large square. And I'm going to build out a much better studio to start doing my podcasting. And I'm going to be joining Paul Thurrott quite a bit, and he'll be joining me, I should say. And yeah, as Steven says, it's very blue. It's going to get a little bit more bricky. We're going to actually build some brick walls in here. And yeah. As Anthony asked, 2017 Xbox is going to be announced this year at E3. I don't think so. So Microsoft, I would be surprised. I'm not ruling it out. I don't quite know how far along this stuff is. Again, remember, this is taking multiple people telling me different things, and I try to bring them together the best that I can. So is the 2017 Xbox going to be announced this year at E3? I don't quite know the answer to that. I don't foresee them doing that because that's a lot of announcements. Not to mention, that's going to kill potential hardware sales. Xbox One is not that far along in its life cycle. I mean, it's granted it's been out for a few years, but it's not like end of life. So Umut asks, is slightly improved hardware? That's what I think we honestly might see. is a revision to the Xbox. We haven't seen a revision yet. Remember, guys, we went through a couple revisions of the Xbox. I can't remember all the code names, but they did upgrade the hardware internally. So don't be surprised to see an upgrade. And I keep pointing back. People don't know. This is where I game. This is a 27-inch monitor, Xbox One. It's right down below there. But I think we might see an upgraded version of the current device or something of that nature. I don't know. That one's still a little bit fuzzy to me at this time. Oh my gosh, everything's scrolling so quickly. It says, do you think Aaron Greenberg's current Twitter header is the new Xbox One controller? Look at the thumbstick flatness and the D-pad being wider. It very well could be. It could be. I mean, trust me, things don't look all that different. It's just a minor revision to that standard controller. Question, when do you think Microsoft keeps resisting opening up the hardware and letting OEMs make hardware like they did for Valve SteamOS? So I think that's a proprietary thing. And I think, don't get me wrong, this is where I think Xbox could be headed. I think it would make a lot of sense if Microsoft allowed Xbox devices to be built. Yeah, I love Xbox. So do I, Morsey. I love the Xbox. I've owned every single one, and I will very much likely own every single one after. Unfortunately, people are asking about very specific game questions. I don't know about games. There's too much going on, and they're outside of Microsoft, which is usually what I know. So, all right, everybody. I am going to end it here. I will have a recap and everything else up in the near future, likely today. So keep it real, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. I do this every week, although not next week, ironically, because I'll be on vacation. But appreciate everybody coming to hang out, and love you guys as always. Have a good one.